Hey, this is Fred from Carnifex, and you're watching RichardMetalFan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Episode 200 of Richard Metal Fan Interviews here at the Masquerade in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm here with my good buddy Fred Calderon from Carnifex. How are you doing today, Fred?
Hey, pretty good. You just got us after sound check, and we're just waiting for the rest of the day to go.
Hell yeah! Like I've had things up, right?
Yeah, cool. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So I know you've been on this awesome tour right now with Signs of the Swarm, Last 10 Seconds of Life. Who else is on?
To the Grave. They're
To the
first.
Grave.
They're from Australia. It's our first U.S. tour.
Oh wow! And then there's Dead Reckoning. So how has the tour been? The most typical interview question ever, I always say.
Yeah, how's tour? Well, I mean, you're catching us at the end, I want to say, of week 2, and it's been great. Like, we finally got to go back to New Orleans, and we played Birmingham in another venue last night, and it's been great. Yeah.
Yeah, so you have your new album Necromanteum that's been out for a while now, and it's one of my favorite albums so far of 2023. Can you talk to me about the writing and recording process and how that whole thing came to be and that good stuff?
Yeah, so like we had that carryover during the pandemic where we revisited Dead in My Arms and it Hell Chose Me to play in its entirety for the fans that were on Patreon. That kind of influenced Graveside, so some of that still carried over to this record. The difference was that we had Neil this time, and so he was immediately in the writing sessions, and he submitted stuff that was along the lines of what he thought we sounded like, and then elements of what he thought would fit our band.
Awesome. And did you want it to continue in the same vein as Graveside Confessions, or did you want it to try something different?
I don't know if we consciously wanted to try something different. I know for sure the thing that sticks out to a lot of people is all the symphonic elements and all the ambient stuff. We had a guy before, and Jordan even before that would contribute, and then we always had keys. Sean is like no one understands. Like, he was the one always adding keyboards from Dead in My Arms on, and then we had some guest keyboardists. But this time we hired a guy. His name is Spencer from Canada, and he's a whole composer. He's a composer, and so he layered all that stuff over the music. So that added that element to the stuff. So we know we wanted it to be filled out and grandiose, not just riffs, you know.
Awesome. And I think you definitely evolved, even from Dead in My Arms to Hell Chose Me, Die Without Hope to now. So it's safe to say it's always just a natural evolution in the Carnifex sound.
Yeah. I mean, we just, at the end of the day, it's just stuff that we think that we want to hear. Like, it's stuff that we get enjoyment from.
Yeah, and of course you had a guest appearance from Tom Barber of Chelsea Grin on Death's Forgotten Children. So how did he end up guest featuring on that song?
Well, we go way back with him. We did our first tours with him, or we did Lorna Shore's first tours with him, and then we just did that European and the U.S. tours where we played Dead in My Arms in its entirety, and then they did that EP. And so on that tour, it was natural of just us talking about what we've been up to and what we're doing, and then him and Scott decided, hey, you want to work on a track together? And then not only did he want to do the track, he got involved in the writing to the point where the lyrical themes of that record is both of their near-death experiences.
That's awesome. And do you think, like, collaborating, because I know on World War X you worked with Elisa from Arch Enemy, does collaborating with like other artists maybe bring in sort of like new ideas to Carnifex?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's different with Tom because before we've had guest vocalists, we've had Adam from Oceano, and we had Alyssa. And the stuff that they are doing has already been written. The pattern's already there. So Scott's telling them, like, here's the framework, and then they bring their voice to it. But with Tom, it was more than that. It was, hey, let's collaborate. So that was the first time we've had another vocalist do a collaborative effort. So the back and forth that they do, that was together. That wasn't something Scott just went, here's the script.
Yeah. And one of my favorite songs from the new album is Crowned in Everblack, which is, of course, a tribute to Black Dahlia murder. Rest in peace, Trevor Sternad. So how'd the whole song come to be? That's still one of my favorite songs from the new album.
We didn't write the song itself with that in mind. It's just that Scott came up with those lyrical themes probably after hearing that. Or he probably already had the idea to write a tribute song to Trevor and had the framework before that specific song was the one that he put that on. But we found that out after when the title came out, and we're like, cool. And then he showed us the lyrics, and we're like, that's awesome. All right.
Awesome. And of course, this is the first album with your new guitarist Neil Timeman. So how did he bring in something like new to Carnifex that you all didn't have previously?
Well, technically, he was on Graveside, and he helped write Cursed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then I think he had some riffs on another song too.
Yeah, but this is like the first full album that he was on.
Yeah. So we immediately started writing with him after the Dahlia tour that we did, and that was the fall of 21. And then that's when he became a full-fledged member, like in the fold. So, like I said, he was he was submitting stuff that he thought fit our style. That and then he was bringing stuff that he thought would fit. That was like, you guys aren't doing this, but I think this is definitely up your alley. And then, but then now of us hanging out and being like in the studio and on the road, we're now doing what normal band dudes do, is just like, you listen to that, that's cool, and then we're finding out these elements of like, we can incorporate all that stuff. So
Hell yeah, and I think it brings in like a new energy to Carnifex, because I remember when I interviewed Scott in Nashville a couple years ago, I thought y'all were gonna stay a 4-piece, but with Neil's addition, I feel like his leads along with Corey's sort of backing up with the riffs just complements each other.
yeah, well, we weren't trying to poach Neil because he was originally in Devil Driver, so we were just filling the gap because they weren't touring, and he's a friend of ours, and so we're like, hey, you fill in. So we were gonna stay a 4-piece, and then when the opportunity presented himself, when he said that he was leaving, we're like, okay, cool, well, it's a no-brainer, dude. You're in the band, man.
Yeah, and kind of want to go back in time a little bit, because this year does mark 15 years of the Disease and the Poison, which I believe was your first record with the band. So what was the thought process going into making that album? Were you like listening to Dead in My Arms being like, I want to play like this, or were you allowed to like sort of bring in your own style into Carnifex?
Well, Sean, when he called me, said straight up, we need someone to help write, and we need someone who can play and record. And I was like, I'm in, because I've known Sean since 2003. And then what ended up happening is the guitar player at the time, Ryan Goodmans, and I had to learn Dead in My Arms in its entirety. And then they were telling us what the influences of, like, hey, these, like, listen to Aborted, listen to Faceless, listen to Despised Icon. We were listening, like, there's all these bands of, they immediately, hey, this is what we're listening to that we think fits our style. Obviously Cannibal Corpse. But then the
Next year will be 10 years of Die Without Hope, that was the first time seeing Carnifex was on the Decade of Despair tour, and ever since then I've seen almost every show you've done since then. So is there any plans of celebrating that next year?
we have something in store, but it's not for that.
Oh,
I can't tell you here.
Yeah, you'll tell me when I turn off the camera.
I can't tell you here.
And then kind of wanted to switch topics, kind of like talking about your approach to bass, because I know you've heard all the bass player jokes and the memes out there, but I feel like you don't gravitate towards flashy bass playing, but instead I feel like you find ways to link what the guitars are doing with the melody and what the drums are doing with the rhythm. So when it comes to tracking the bass, what is your approach?
Well, the band is very guitar, drum, and vocal demand, like heavy. Like, that's the forefront, that's the attention. So I have to fit in there where I'm not going to try to overplay over their stuff. I'm not trying to demand any attention. So whenever mostly I'm in the pocket and just like making the riff sticker or playing, just regular bass of just like, I'm just rhythmically thinking of what I can accent that Sean's doing or that the guitars aren't doing or are doing. And then every once in a while there's some breathing room, and then that's when I kind of like flex out. But I have to be the word that's great, and like Jason Sukoff always says it. It's like, we're trying to be tasteful,
Yeah, because I remember seeing an interview with Troy Sanders from Mastodon. He describes like the bass is like the special stuff in between a sandwich. Like the guitars are like the bread, and the bass is like that special stuff in between.
You said the memes, like the one that's always funny is like, if it's not grabbing your attention in a certain way, in a negative way, I'm doing my job. So
yeah. And speaking of bass, I'm always curious, like, what is like your bass rig, like basses you play, strings, amps, pedals, and all that good hoo-ha?
So I'm using Acacia Atlas 5 basses. They're multi-scales, 5-string basses. I have one in drop F and one in drop A, and then I'm running them through a Mesa Carbine 9, Mesa Powerhouse 8x10, and then my pedals are the Dark Glass Hyperluminal compressor, the Dark Glass X7 overdrive. I have a MXR Smart Gate, and then I have a Korg DT10 tuner. Yeah.
Awesome.
And then I use Ernie Ball strings and couch guitar straps.
Hell yeah. And so kind of in the end, to wrap things up, what's next for Carnifex with this new album cycle?
Yeah, so we're going to South America for the first time in our entire career. We have played Ecuador, we have played Colombia, but we're finally going to Brazil, and then we're going to cap that with a final show in Mexico City, and then that's it for this year. And then we have already our schedule for next year. We got a European tour lined up and a U.S. tour lined up, but I can't give any more details than that.
Hell yeah. So before we go, just
Yeah,
want to
man.
thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
It's great to be able to have you.
Thanks
and
for hosting
thank
me,
you,
buddy.
And thanks for interview number 200.
Yeah.
It's just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching to close us out.
We're currently on tour in the United States with Signs of the Swarm, To the Grave from Australia, and The Last 10 Seconds of Life. We have finished the first leg, carved all the Southwest, and we're in the South right now, and then we're going to start carving up the East Coast, so we'll see you soon.
All right, buddy. So Fred from Carnifex, we'll see you next time.